Morning, Sue. Thanks, Claire. All on board? Thank you. Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody. I'll call the meeting to order. It's great to be back in the council chamber, and I'm real pleased to be back after a couple of months. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Liz for filling in and cheering for me. Liz, I know you're a busy person, but to do that, thank you so much. Thank you. Today we're a little bit short-staffed because of COVID, and we're running a different ship, so could you just be patient when you've got questions or we got something going on, and Claire's trying to manage it from over there in conjunction with Jenny, who's at home, so that would be much appreciated. So could I ask, are there any apologies, please? We've got everybody that was going to be here. Hazel, apology for Hazel, she hasn't made it on Zoom. Okay, Jim for lateness, so he'll be here. And everybody else has come on board. Am I right?
Graham, all good to go.
Thank you. Mover and a seconder, please. Policy. Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Roger. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Are there any disclosure of members' interests that they want to? There be none. Yeah. Oh, sorry, Bill.
I don't know where I said, but
just here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, just a couple of hats here.
Okay.
Ngāti Apakururunga Trust is being discussed later on in the day, and also the hat I wear for the National Wetlands Trust.
Okay, thank you.
For Rotorua.
Okay.
And I can't think of anything else on the agenda. But
okay.
It could be.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I'm not too sure whether, oh, well, thanks for raising it. I'm not too sure that it's going to, have to belt out of the room. I don't think so. Somebody smarter than me will know that. Susan will know that with you. Are there any late items, please? There being none. I move in a second that the Service Delivery Committee confirm the order of the meeting. If there's no changes, thank you, Claire. Thank you, Sue. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Confirmation of the minutes of the last meeting. Somebody will have to put me right if because I wasn't there. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Any issues there that people are worried about? Thank you, Roger. Roger's moved. Thank you, Bruce. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Tab 6 is the Transportation Activity Report. And we've got Brian Hudson on the other end of the room. Thank you, Brian. Nice to catch up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
It's good to be back in the chambers with everybody. Thank you. So we can take this report as read. I do want to make a couple of corrections to the report for things that have happened recently. So on the second page, it mentions how under chip sealing that we were still to seal Waikoha Road. So we've made a decision with the contractor that it is too damp and shaded on that road to get a good seal on it now. So we'll delay that to the summer, but we will do any repairs that we need to do to make sure it gets through the winter okay. And then on page 15 of my report, about bus use, and this is use within the towns. At the bottom of the page there, it says that 9% of the trips on the buses in Cambridge are between Cambridge and Leamington, or say between Cambridge and the Velodrome or something like that. So 9% of the trips, but it goes on to say Te Mira is a much smaller percentage, greater than 2%. It should be less than 2%. So the greater than, less than symbol's the wrong way around in the text.
Thank you, Brian.
But happy to answer any questions you have about the report.
Thank you. Questions for Brian?
Mr. Chair, I've got one. Brian, this what do you call it? The the State Highway Bridge on State Highway 39. With the detour, what's the story at the finish when they tidied up? Narnbury Road's a mess. Yeah,
Yes.
can you elaborate on how they rehabilitate all that? Thank you.
Right. So at the moment, we're just undertaking holding repairs. So we're milling out and putting in asphalt and doing edge break repairs and things like that. And we will hold that road through the winter in that fashion. The contractor on the highway work is obviously working towards replacing that bridge. And we're hearing that could be around the end of June that the old bridge is lifted out and the new bridge is put into place. So we know we'll have to do substantial repairs to the road when the detour is lifted, but it's pretty difficult to do that while the detour traffic is on the route. So we'll wait until the detour is finished, and then it'll probably be early spring that we would get in and do substantial proper repairs and fully restore the road. At the moment, we've spent around $30,000 on repairs, which Waka Kotahi are funding 100%.
Roger, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. And it's good to get that definition of the trips in Cambridge. I might chat to you a little bit out of meeting just to see if more definition on that. And being a little cynical, have you had a chance to read the emissions report and how much money is going to come to us for public transport and for cycling to Cambridge from those billions that have been released by government? That's a cynical question.
Right. Okay.
But the question that I really had was just driving over from Cambridge this morning. That road is becoming a real challenge, and I know it's a perpetual problem. But any idea what is the solution to that, or are we just going to have to keep piling money into it?
Right. So you're quite right. It's got quite bumpy. We've got the uneven road surface signs and temporary speed restrictions on it at the moment. So we do plan to do some asphalt smoothing there shortly to smooth it out for the winter. But we will be faced with summertime ripping it up and relaying it. So our activity management plan works on the basis that needs to be done probably every 5 to 7 years on that road. Different parts will last longer, and it very much depends on the seasons and how dry it gets and just how much the peat shrinks. But there's, I guess, in some countries they might dig out 10 meters of peat and replace it with clay or sand or something like that and build a solid foundation, but there would be millions and millions of dollars of expense and disruption, and it's probably it will be much cheaper into the future to carry on with the type of activity we do.
Even the limited work that you're talking about, instead of digging down, that's still going to be a costly exercise. When you say the budget was for that to occur every 5 to 7 years, where are we in that cycle? Does that mean we're going to have to bring some resource forward to enable that, or is that within our long-term planning projections?
Yeah, certainly within our long-term plan provisions. We're doing, I guess, discrete sections of it as it goes out of shape. So we're not going from one end to the other. It's just as it needs it.
Phil, have you got a question?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks through the chair. Thanks, Brian, for your report. I've got 2 quick questions, but just following on quickly from Roger's comment about the road, do we get extra funding for that Cambridge Te Amiru Road, as it's such a huge, heavy traffic coming from west to east type of thing? I've got 2 other quick questions, but just do we get extra funding for that road at all?
Quick answer, no. 51% subsidy, the same as all of our remainder roads.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Oh, Phil, just since I've been on council, we've approached NZTA over a number of years. We do realise that it's a heavy traffic route going down Gulf Road and then across the towards Cambridge going to the port. but we haven't had any takers from NZTA.
Yeah.
And probably coming over it today, you can see why they're not keen.
Yeah, I know you've asked that question because I've been in the room before when you've asked that question, so that's why I brought it up as well. But going back to my couple of questions, page 3 of your report, 3.2 CCTV, there's a comment in here that the recommendations have been brought to the CCTV group May and June. Have we got a date for that meeting?
No, not quite yet. So we've got a draft report from Safer Cities that staff are just looking through and making sure that there's no errors or omissions in there. And then we'll be bringing that to that committee. So distributing it to the committee for information and reading, and then we would get together to discuss it.
So it's more likely to be June because it says May or June, May and June. So it's more likely to be June, isn't it?
It could be late May.
Right. Okay, cool. And the other second question, at the end of, you're probably aware of it, but the end of Empire Street, where you've got the big roundabout on Victoria Road and Duke Street, there's quite a big soft spot there, a pothole. The tiling sort of collapsed and things like that. It's probably about 1 metre wide, I think, probably. You're aware of that? And if so, what is there a plan to fix that?
No, sorry, I'm not aware of that, but we'll certainly look at it and see what's going on there. I think a lot of the asphalt was replaced there recently, so I would have thought it was new and up to date, but unless there's a service leak or problem under the ground that's caused an issue. But
right, so this is the tiling area.
Okay.
Right at the end of Empire Street as it hits the roundabout of Victoria and Duke Street there.
Right, in the cobblestones, yeah.
I'll take a photo when I'm next in town and send it to you. But it's probably about 1 metre wide, and it's part of the tiling platform, surface there. So yeah.
I know that in that area, that's in the cobblestone area. If water gets into that, it will just move the jointing sand out and the bedding sand underneath and make the cobbles come loose. So we'll probably have to lift it up and relay it. It sits on a concrete foundation, that cobblestone area. So
yeah, it's the cobblestone. So
yeah, it will just be the bedding sand which has come loose.
Yeah, it'll probably need picking up, which is lifting up and getting underneath it. Okay, thank you.
Brian, when we did the upgrade of Cambridge, they found an old well right at that end, and it had clay bricks lining it, believe it or not. So to me, it's always going to be a little bit damp. They wouldn't have put it there for nothing, would they? But yeah, just a bit of history there. Sorry, I'm getting old. Claire.
Thanks, Brian. I want to ask you a question about the footpaths, particularly the Collinson Street one that's down there for new construction, because there has been a resident that has sent in his worries about it. That's Nick Ensign, because it was proposed to have the footpath on the west side of Collinson Street, where he's got a lot of overhanging trees and chestnut trees. And he said to me that he hasn't ever had a response from that email he sent in to council. I think that what's happening is the contractor might have been informed, but I think he feels that council staff should have responded to him. And so if he could understand and whether or not there's been any sort of consideration which is the best side of the street for that new footpath to go and things like that. Yeah, so I'd really appreciate it if staff could sort of follow that up.
Okay, yeah. We'll track that down.
Bill, would you have a question? And then Mike, I'll send you up there.
Oh, maybe not so much of a question, but I just wanted to acknowledge iwi's participation in how great it is to have the design panels for the Mangapiko bridges being done at Memorial Park, and we've got Korotangi Paki doing those. And a thanks to Councillor Lou Brown for managing to pull all those parties together to ensure that there was some recognition. So thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Mike.
Thank you, through the chair. Brian, just a question on page, I think it's page 13, you're in the household waste collections. Does that include oil, waste oil from vehicles? That's my first quick question.
I believe that there is a oil collection as part of that, yes.
Right. And just wondering, back in the day, the community boards and over in Cambridge tried to get a oil collection. We put it out to the community, and one of the service stations put their hand up. I'm not sure what's happened to it. I think it's sort of fallen over, but as an ongoing sort of waste collection point, is there any way council could look at something more ongoing for, particularly maybe around vehicle waste oil, which can be a real problem for people if they're servicing their own vehicles?
Yeah, that's a good idea. I guess we, need to stop that as a potential source of pollution. So having that facility, I know that, a number of garages obviously have that tank that is there for their own use and it's being emptied out all the time. But whether, something like that, I guess it needs to be in a secure area so that it can't be tampered with. Or contaminated with something that shouldn't be in there would be the thing. So having it at a service station or place where it's monitored, I think, is pretty important.
Yeah, exactly. So it was just putting a call out to that type of community, and there was no cost at all. So yeah, that fits that.
Thanks, Mike. Liz, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. Hey, Brian, just 3.6, the Victoria Street Bridge repair. So I'm just, I guess, reflecting back in 2013 when we had Victoria Bridge, of course, out of action, and yeah, I guess looking at what the impacts might be for our community later on this year. So we know that there's a lot of capacity down on the Ferguson Bridge, and we have talked in the past about creating even a temporary or permanent roundabout at the bottom of Duke Street to be able to allow a right-hand turn to allow more capacity down to Ferguson Bridge. Is that something you're contemplating for this repair work later on this year? Because I guess I'm really keen to see some really active solutions in place well before we start hearing from the community around their frustrations and the river crossings later on in the year. So I just want to know if that was kind of an option for you.
Right. It's so I guess the steps we're taking, working with contractors and the planning, but particularly around the scaffolding on the bridge, to know what methodologies could we use to try and keep the weight of scaffolding down. That's still efficient for the bridge repair, but allows us to keep it open for 2 lanes of traffic. So that would be the optimal solution, where we could use lightweight scaffolding or limit the amount of scaffolding and materials on the bridge. But failing that, if we need to close it to 1 lane of traffic, then we would have the southbound lane would stay open to traffic, given that the evening peak is the bigger peak of traffic and the morning is more dispersed or over a longer time period, and it gives people more ability to filter through the other bridge. And then, so what steps would you take hand in hand with that? What temporary traffic diversions or intersection changes would you make? Because you couldn't just make it in one place. You'd probably have to look at several intersections that you'd have to amend to get a flow of traffic around. And so the work we're doing with that Bluetooth tracking will help us see where people are coming from and going to. So all those entrances to Cambridge on the south side, which bridge do those people then cross, and where do they go once they've crossed the bridge? Is it just to town? Is it to school and back again? Is it carrying on to Hamilton, for a commute to work or university or something like that? So that information will help build the picture of where the pressure points will be. And then we could see what changes we might make to intersections to basically speed up that traffic. And so you could have the situation, do we just change that intersection at the peak time of day and then remove the controls so it operates normally the rest of the day? And then you're prioritizing those commuter flows, which will create the congestion. So those sorts of options are then on the table. And at any intersection that you are treating, would you try and treat it with something like, curb blocks that created a temporary roundabout? or would you just change the priority so that a different flow of traffic had the priority and others had to give way, so that you could get the best capacity going? So all of those options will be on the table.
Look, thanks, Brian. And I'm really, I know that you're thinking about this in advance. It is always astounding to me how many engineers there are in Cambridge when we've got issues, and we will, and I can see it coming already that we will have an issue if we go down to a one-lane system when we're doing that maintenance. So I think the communication several months, weeks, months preferably, around how is Cambridge going to work if we are one lane. So, and I just think we need to have a really good game plan around this. We didn't get the lead-in time last time. We have the lead-in time this time. So I really want to see an active comms plan around how people can plan for their commuter river crossing. So yeah, no, thanks for your work.
Brian? Roger, sorry.
Thanks, Graham. Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, isn't it? What's going to happen when that bridge possibly is closed. You mentioned the Bluetooth technology being introduced. When does that start? That'll be really interesting. That's the first question.
So that's been ongoing for some time now.
Oh, has it?
Yes.
Yep.
So the Bluetooth counters are in place. We have collected 4 weeks of data, well, 8 weeks of data, but one counter on Shakespeare Street failed because its power supply failed. So we're extending the count period for another 4 weeks to make sure we get that full 8-week picture.
Well, and that'll be sufficient on which
Yes.
to make some initial judgment.
Yeah.
I think if I remember rightly, going back about, geez, it would be nearly 6 years, I think John Bishop, when he was councillor, shared with me the plans, the design plans already for a roundabout at the bottom of Duke Street, which must have been the intention going back quite a while. So I think the design of the traffic flow around that would be there. So I'd certainly support, the opportunity that this might present to see if that is a good traffic network initiative. Yep.
Yeah, that report was done by Grey Matter in 2017-18 with some options, because it's a tricky thing, with all those streets coming onto that intersection. So that is still available. We've seen that. There was nothing hard and fast. There was just a whole lot of options that everybody could consider. Thanks, Brian, if you want.
Yes, going to mention, so the difference between building a permanent intersection where we could change the levels of the road and everything is quite different to a temporary arrangement where we'd have to work with the existing, quite steep slope on that road. So that may limit our options as to how we can treat it or manage it. Yeah, cars would be fine on the slope, but anything that's a bit higher, if it had to do a 90-degree turn, it could tip over on that slope.
Another question regarding the management of the bridge traffic at the time when there is that work. Will a reduction in speed over that bridge be necessary?
It's already got a permanent 30-kilometre-hour speed restriction on it, so shouldn't be necessary to go lower. Yeah.
Okay.
Philip, have you got another question?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I mean, I thought there was a really good question from Liz and gave us all a really good understanding. So thanks, Liz, for doing that, and Brian. And yeah, there's been discussion about Duke Street and many other intersections for a long time. We've seen drawings when we're on the community board about the layout of Duke Street in particular, and some of the drawings I've seen is that you change the layout around to swap it around completely. So you're coming down Duke Street and it's just everyone has to give way to enter from Albert Street onto Duke Street and go down the hill. So a roundabout is not just one option, it's just changing the layout around completely as well. So, but yeah, thank you.
Brian, I see a piece on Hall Street, design investigations underway, drainage improvement and sealing. Is that happening now for the summer reconstruction?
Yes, that's correct. There may be some works that we can do earlier, like some drainage works, through the winter, but we'll get the design done and
thank you.
Probably the bulk of the build. if it was possible, through the autumn, winter, working around the trees, it's probably the best time for any digging.
Yeah, thanks. I was at Land Transport. I thought some of you might be interested in the area of the Regional Council with NZTA, and David Spears gave us some updates yesterday. This summer, and it was a good long summer, I think, for getting a lot of work done. They resurfaced 7.6 kilometres, resealed 361 kilometres, rehabilitated 21.7 kilometres, replaced 11.8 kilometres of scrim. That's the scrim that holds up the plants on the bank. They did 20 drainage sites. They maintained 158 signs that needed a touch up and replaced 2,222 marker pegs. They did 2,558 kilometres of new painting on centre lines, and in total lanes, they painted 5,619 kilometres, and that was that network was 7.2% of New Zealand's network. So some big kilometres with those guys working. I think we all ran into those going through the summer and thought, oh no, not another lot. But yeah, very interesting. Okay, are there any more questions? Because thanks, Marcus.
Brian, I'm just wondering how the new road's going, because I've had a lot of people say that it's just like a war zone down there. I've driven it a few times and huge rocks and tyres getting cut up and stuff, and we haven't had any complaints.
Yeah, we have had one. Well, initially we had a couple of complaints about dust, and then the contractor got onto that quickly with a water cart and sorted it out when it was very dry. We have had one complaint of a punctured tyre on the stones, and actually one of my staff got a puncture on the work vehicle just yesterday, I think, as well. So it can be an issue with that sort of work, but that the bigger stone is basically all in place and rolled now, and bringing in the finer stone that goes on the top, that last layer, to bring it up to level for sealing. So it is going well, and the contractor has done a good job overall. So we're very pleased with the quality of the work.
Thank you. All right, that's a good go at the transportation. So I have a recommendation there that the report be received from Brian.
I'll move that, Grant.
Yeah, thank you, Phil. Claire seconds. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Tab 7 is the Karapiro 100k flyer. This is an annual event, and I think it's pretty straightforward unless someone's found something that I haven't found. So looking for a mover and a seconder, please, for that, for A, B.
Move.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Marcus. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Tab 8 is the field days. Brian, is this is their ordinary? I didn't see anything abnormal, but this is their ordinary for the field days in November, is it?
Yeah, Julie here.
Sorry, Julie.
I can speak to that. Yeah, it is. They did postpone because there was still too much uncertainty at that point where they had to make that decision. So that is now in November, but it's exactly the same plan as they had put forward for earlier in the year.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. I'm sorry, I couldn't see you up there. I should have known you would be not far away. So there's on two, there's some recommendations, A, B, C, and yep, that's it. So I'm happy to move from the chair. If someone likes to, thank you, Lou. Any more questions? I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Tab 9 is the National Performance Review findings. And is that you, Martin? Oh, Rena, I didn't see you behind the chair. Good morning. Come on up. Nice to see you both.
Morena, good to see you all as well in person. It's nice. It's all different. We need screens or something. All right. So I'm going to speak to the Water New Zealand National Performance Review findings. So every year, Waipa District Council participate in this national review, and we've been participating since 2009, so this is no exception. So I'm happy to take the report as read, but I've got a couple of summary points just for the key findings that we can just mention and go through. So overall, the number of participants that participated at a national level was lower this year than last. There was, I think last year 42, and this year was about 38 out of 64 councils. Waipa's results, so we had our leakage index was one of the lowest of all participating councils. So this indicated that any losses below an international rating of 2, it may not be may be uneconomic to actually rectify. So some really positive results there for us. The daily average residential water use was one of the lowest across the country, with an average of just under 180 litres per person per day. So this reaffirms the impacts of universal water metering that we've put in across our district. The revenue that we receive per property for water is actually higher than the national average, but both wastewater and stormwater were below the national average. Capital expenditure per property seems quite high. So we did put the disclaimer in the report that we just want to investigate that a little bit more. We're unsure if the calculation that we did actually aligned. So we just, Waipa came out as the highest, but quite considerably. So we think there's a bit of discrepancy there. So we're investigating that a little bit more. The review period for this review as well covered when we had 2 abatement notices in place. So one was for the long-term Cambridge wastewater abatement notice, but of course that has since been removed. That came off on the 1st of December previous year. And then the other one was for the discharge incident at Te Amuru wastewater treatment plant as well, which came through this committee. The level of service responses for us were below the national mediums for both urgent and non-urgent responses. So we have really good response times. And overall, really positive results, very much reflective of the high level of investment and infrastructure that we have put to our 3 waters. And then looking forward, so our team will be preparing for incoming changes as well to the national reporting. So with Taumata Arawai, they're currently looking at adjusting the way that we report on this. The National Performance Review may not be in the same format. They've got different environmental measures as well that they're looking to bring in from the 1st of July. So we're just pending that and preparing for what we may need to report on. So open to questions.
Yep. Just got one here, Roger.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a really interesting report. And your comments, and from my reading of it, perhaps, the current regime we've got in charging for water and per capita means that we can actually reinvest more into the maintenance of our system, which actually supports the fact that Waipa is well placed in terms of its provision of water services, and suggests that the 3 waters is not the solution for us, because we're one of the ones that have looked after our water. So that's, I think, good news that's coming through on this report. Thanks.
Renee, can I just ask a question? Do you think the lower participation in the survey was primarily due to the COVID situation? Is it?
Yeah, I think there was a combination of things. I think COVID definitely impacted. I think a lot of councils were particularly under-resourced, resources were stretched, but it also aligned with the request for information from the DIA at the same time. Okay. So I think a lot of councils were particularly exhausted.
Well, I know you were all running around trying to get these things in the time frame, weren't you, at that stage? Yes, yeah. Thank you, Claire. Sorry.
Thanks, and great report, and I think it does reflect really well on the way Waipa has managed its water assets. I'd be really keen to hear back when you've reviewed that, capital, the value of the capital assets compared to per capita or whatever. Yeah, because you said it looks, because it doesn't sound quite right, and it'd be good if you could just update the committee on what the findings were.
Absolutely, I can put it in our next service delivery report, which is next week. Yes, shortly. I'll do it. That's fine. I can add it. Yeah, that's right. I know it might take a bit of a while.
We can do a verbal update.
Yeah, because that's quite an important measure, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you.
Martin, can I just ask a question after seeing Parallel Road? Where's that sitting now? Are you happy with the things you've done that might eliminate the grit and stuff? Is it performing well?
Yep, so it's performed well all summer. We having to clean the filters daily still because of the sun and grit. We're hoping get a price for the install of the hydrocyclones by the end of this month, and then it'll be a couple of months install if that price is acceptable. Okay. So by midwinter, so in early spring, we'll have got the solution to that problem installed. Yeah.
And that would mean you wouldn't have to do that daily wash on those filters?
No. So yeah, it would certainly free up a lot of our operators' time.
Oh, good. Thanks. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, it's quite outstanding the difference percentage-wise it makes by having water meters compared with the national average, where I guess a lot of councils haven't got water meters. And maybe just a good comm job that the council has done over the years to get people to actually think about turning on the faucet, turning on the tap, turning on the hose. The calculation I've got there is about 64% down on the national average. So no, not 64%, 36%. So we're saving over a third of the national average, which is absolutely massive. So yeah, well done all round.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Any more questions to the report? Okay, there's a recommendation there that the performance review findings from Renee Coots be received. Thank you, Richard. Who said that, Mike? Thanks, Mike.
Yes.
You seconding? Thank you. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Thanks, Renee. Cool. Thank God, someone's spotting for me. I can't see. Okay, tab 10 is living water, Manga Otama. Here comes the A team. Nice to see you both. And Brad, I believe that you've gone to a higher position in the hierarchy. Congratulations on that. It's great. You're not acting anymore, you're it. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Hannah Divefor. I'm the Reserves Planning Team Leader. My report today, which I've taken as read, regards Council's endorsement and signing of a mana enhancing agreement. This agreement confirms Waipa District Council as a partner to the Manga Otama Ohopor Peat Lakes to Waipa River Connection Project as part of the broader Living Water program. There's a couple of key points that I was wanting to highlight from this report. The project has started. It will run through till the end of December 2023. The work that we are committing to through the signing of this agreement already forms part of our planned work program in the Peat Lakes space. And as such, it doesn't result in us committing to any additional spend over and above what has already been planned for. The signing of this agreement is meaningful in that it is symbolic in the way that we need and intend to work alongside other partners to achieve positive outcomes in the Peat Lakes space, noting that we can all contribute in different ways to this work. I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. No, it looks comprehensive. Yeah, thanks, Marcus.
Just got one question, Hannah. Why doesn't it encompass the other Peat Lakes? Why is it only just this set?
Sorry, through the chair, I'm not exactly sure. I guess that the entire Living Water program has focused on different parts of the Peat Lake network. So more recently, there is a focus on the Manga Otama catchment, and hence Waipa has looked at the space, the work that we're doing in this space, and how it will contribute to the wider program of work.
If I could do the chairs to add to that we, a lot of our partners are in the space as well, and so we're trying to maximise our efforts with them as well, just to get maximum benefit.
Good. Looks very good. Yeah, Bruce.
Thank you. Hannah, joining landowners having commitments, do they put anything into it? Because I know the Manga Otama, that's been with the regional council, they've put a lot into that going back quite a while, and so it's carrying on. That's great. But do the landowners, they'll get some benefit, a lot good. Do they contribute any, or just give land?
Yeah, so there are quite a few different actions that are being taken as part of the program. One of the really big parts of the program from Living Water's perspective is the work that Fonterra is doing with all of their farms within the catchment to develop environmental plans. So out of those environmental plans, there will be some areas that will be retired, some areas that will be planted, fenced, etc. So there are certainly commitments being made by private landowners, but it does vary depending on which property and how where they've got to with the negotiations so far.
Okay, anything else? All right, there's a recommendation A and B there that it'll be received. Happy. Yep, thank you, Susan. Thank you, Claire. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Thanks so much. And tab 11 is Community Services Quarterly Report. And Brad, you're it.
Thanks, Chair, and great to see you back.
Thank you.
So, morena tātou, te he mōre ora kia koutou katoa. I'll just briefly highlight a few aspects of our Community Services Quarterly Report for quarter 3, and at the end I'm happy to take some questions. Our facilities continue to be significantly hampered by COVID-19. The Omicron variant has also meant our business continuity has been stretched over this time. The click and collect remain popular at the libraries, and the Te Amini Museum has created online programs and take-home packages for people to use just to sort of move with the situations they were facing. Numbers remain low in the museum, and members of the community and schools appear to be a bit more cautious as they sort of work out their new normal. But we expect these numbers to lift organically as people begin to become more comfortable in public spaces again, and our museum program is able to fully operate. Cyclone Dovey caused significant damage across the district and has impacted our planned maintenance. The current cost of the cleanup measured at over $77,000. The event alone has exceeded our allocated budget for the unplanned emergency tree work. Unfortunately, the contractors have put on a concerted effort prior to the storm, and so the overall program is still on track, even despite a reduced program over the last couple of months. The most urgent storm work has been completed, but some cleanup, such as stump removal or low-risk remedial work, is still yet to be completed. And this will be incorporated into our business as usual work programs to maximise traffic management, costs and general budget. Our recruitment has remained a challenge across the unit, and contractors continue to support the parks operations teams to ensure our level of service has been maintained. Our year 1 reserve planning projects is progressing now with the help of some external support. And these include projects such as the cemetery concept plans and Sainsbury Road Reserve Management Plan that have previously been daylighted. And work continues to establish external support for the Wairoto and Maroto Reserves Management Plan, which will commence now in year 2. Finally, if I could, I'd just like to acknowledge our teams. As I've noted, the resource gaps with our teams and the COVID-19 restrictions have had an impact. Day after day, they all come in looking to help wherever possible to muck in, thinking outside the box, and do whatever is required to ensure our communities are still getting the best possible service that we can provide. Mihi nui to those that have passed on their thanks to the teams on the front line or emailed through their gratitude. Those thanks go a long way for our staff and keep morale high and giving the team purpose for the awesome work they do. So if we take any further questions on the report.
Yeah, thank you, Bill.
Kia ora kōrua. Ngā mihi koutou, and kia ora tu toku mahi to your mahi. So kia ora, Brad. And so you won't be surprised that my question comes in terms of Wairoto Reserve Management Plan, or Ngāroto as it's on the document here. You'll see that there's a question. This remains a priority piece of work overdue to staff vacancies. Teams looking for budget options for a consultant. Are you able to give us any update as to how that might be progressing? Obviously, it's a key issue for the district, what's happening at Wairoto. So, and I don't know that there's I saw a submission requesting funding for this consultancy work to be completed. So I'm interested, Brad, in getting an update from you on how you might be best doing that.
Kia ora, thanks, Bill. Through the chair, we, as I said, just noted then, we're looking to move this into our year 2 program. And so we will be channeling some of the long-term plan budget that we've got allocated in the reserve management space to fund this. We're just working through those fine details now, but we anticipate being able to do it from that program.
If I might, the supplementary, the Mangakawari cultural values, I think is came through Ngāti Apakura the other day, and I think it's complete. So it's just waiting for a launch on that one by way of information. So to the rest of the council, we have one other question. Hey, am I supposed to do that or not?
No, it's not exactly. You're fine.
Hey?
No, you're fine. We're not exactly in a hurry, so go for it.
The other question I've got is about whether there are any whether there's any kōrero going on with the local mana whenua in terms of the reserve. Sorry, it's not the reserve. It's the Kihikihi water tower land. So the Turata Reserve has, in my understanding of it, has three blocks. One of them was taken under the Public Works Act for that tower for water for Kihikihi. And I'm wondering whether that particular reserve, because it was taken under the Public Works Act as opposed to the other two, which the council, I think, one of them at least the council bought. I'm wondering whether there is any thought being given to the return of that piece, and perhaps its connection to the Rewa Maniaputa Reserve Trust. So, that's my question.
Kia ora, thanks for that. So as you'll be aware, we have removed the water tower now in Kiki, and we're I can find out exactly where we're at to the program, but we are looking to include some seating and picnic tables as part of that restoration project. In terms of further kōrero, we haven't had those to date around that, so that would be something to be potentially looked into wider.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Phil, thank you, and then Lou, and then Roger.
Thanks through the chair. Thanks, Brad, for your report. I've got two quick comments. I think the first one's part of in your department. I noticed 2 or 3 weeks ago, I made note of it, that there was a lot of rubbish just flying around the main street and around the town hall and things like that. And a couple of retailers have commented on it just last week as well. But for the funeral, Saturday week ago, for Don Duran's funeral, at the old bus stop there at the town hall, had to sweep up rubbish and beer bottles and things like that. So if we could just keep an eye on that, please. It looks a lot better now anyway. But and on a good note, the new playground, or the amendments to the playground at Thornton Road, that's getting hugely. Looks awesome, and huge amount of kids there and things in the weekends and things like that. So that looks really awesome. So well done there. So thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Thank you. Lou?
Yeah, thank you through you, Chair. Congratulations, Brad. Just a couple of questions from my point of view. The first thing was that if we're doing some maintenance work where you're having a review of Memorial Park with the trees, we would, as a RSA and others, would like to have some input, just knowledge of what is going on, because this is an area to us of Memorial. And as I say, some of the trees do have some significance over the years planted by certain people, etc. So we just like to ask that. Second thing was that I noticed that you've got the contract to continue to water 510 juvenile trees. I noticed that in some of the new subdivisions, trees are being planted in these subdivisions, but then are just left. And I know it's not a council problem, but there should be a commitment by perhaps these developers to continue these trees' existence, because obviously with the weather we've had this last year or so, a juvenile tree is not going to survive very long. So that was a very important issue for a few people living around those subdivisions, and thought perhaps that they could be just asked to contribute a little bit towards water. They've got water trucks there. Perhaps they could just do something along that line. And the other one that I was going to ask was the fact that we are seeing the development of the skateboard park, and I just want to say that that looks really great at the moment. So well done, and an excellent addition to our local area. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lou. Thank you, Roger.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Brad, congratulations on your appointment. This is the second quarterly report that we've had a considerable amount of damage to our public toilets and facilities. And when you think of replacement cost and the man hours that are going in to manage this situation, is there not some form of other solution we could look at? Perhaps getting some cameras on these facilities? I mean, I know the cameras in themselves are expensive, but if that's a long-term mitigation of at least catching some of these culprits and maybe influencing them not to steal things. I mean, if somebody's walking out of a toilet with a toilet seat under their arm, then surely a camera, we should be able to find out who. But I was just saying, is that an opportunity for us to maybe mitigate some of this damage and cost?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. And through the chair, we are looking at alternative solutions for some of these issues, try and make it a bit harder for them to access things. Like we've had the Cambridge skate park toilet closed for a few weeks now. That's while we are waiting to get some new parts to try and hide some of the infrastructure, the pipe work, so it's not so noticeable to be able to sort of yank that off and things. We can look into cameras. Cameras are a little bit tricky at toilets. Obviously, privacy issues. People do get a little bit, there's a little bit of stigma around that, I guess, around privacy. So we'd have to be careful and look into that. We are, looking at cameras for different situations. It's part of the feedback we got from our recent community engagement with the skate community down there was that they would appreciate cameras. So we're just looking to see where we can incorporate that into the project budget at the moment. So definitely look at any solutions that we can in that space.
Mike, your turn.
Thank you through the chair. Hi, Brad, and I congratulate you on Saturday for your promotion. So again, well done. Hey, couple of questions. One's just off the back of that, and cameras is one thing, but have we also looked at sort of signage about sort of looking after your environment, particularly around those sort of more public use areas where teenagers use them, skate parks and bowls and those sorts of things of, I don't know, some catchphrases about looking after your environment and looking after each other and this facility is yours sort of thing. That's just one idea, maybe alongside cameras, but maybe instead of cameras too. And the other thing is just the opportunity costs of that Cyclone Dovey. I see we've sort of gone over budget. We've had to take it from the program works budget. Have you got any indication of the effect of that, or is it this stage out of the contingency of that program works budget?
So yeah, we still are within our overall budget for the tree program. And as I noted in my highlight there, that the contractors had done sort of a decent chunk of work to get us sort of ahead of schedule, sort of through September through December. So we're in a good place in terms of the program is not affected at the moment. So now we're sort of prioritising the last sort of month or so just through to year end. It's actually, I wouldn't say it's a blessing in disguise, but obviously through COVID, our contractors have been impacted the last month or so as well. So while we've had to reduce our program to remain within budget, it's also aligned quite nicely for them as they've had juggled their staff.
Right, good. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Yeah, Bill.
Just picking up on the Wairoto algal bloom, I just wanted to acknowledge the work of the staff in terms of the collection of the tuna and the manu, and finding a common space murupā for them. And that was a great plan and a great procedure. And my question therefore is this something that we can, a procedure that we can expect to be ongoing in terms of where manu and tuna might be lost because of the climate?
I can comment on that. Thank you, Bill, for your comments. I think the event at Ngā Roto Wairoto was unprecedented, and I was really proud of the way that we worked together with mana whenua and other stakeholders to work through that process. In terms of how we dealt specifically with the tuna. I think certainly going forward, we'd like to continue those sorts of discussions. I think there's also a room for a bit of a debriefing of the event this year. So I think certainly we can expect to work together that way in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Yeah, Brad, I just wanted to say, when they had that storm, I thought the staff did a magnificent job. I know there were some people bitching on Facebook about this and that, but you were prioritising in going out and pulling the branches from the roading network and then coming back and redoing them, which I think was good. But I've been travelling for a couple of months over to Hamilton, and I'm going the Glenview way. And if you go there, you'll see trees that have been down for all that time and they haven't been picked up. And now there's blackberry growing up through them. And they're just mowing around them, and it's their southern entrance. It's not flash. So I think we're ahead of the game, really. Yeah. All right. Any other? Oh, thanks, Lou.
Just quickly through you, Chair, to the cemeteries concept plan. Once again, I just wanted to ask that we actually ask, particularly about the Memorial Cemetery up in Te Awamutu, just how we expand that. And I think the RSA once again needs to be consulted, and I think locally we need to be consulted, because it's a very, very important part of our memorial. And I just wondered whether we're going to expand that area or we're going to do something there. So we need to have some plans there at some stage.
Yeah, thanks through the chair. That's definitely part of the plan. So Anna McElroy, who's now with Exist, she's going to be sort of picking up that project for us. And I know she just emailed last week that she's planning to be in touch with both yourself and also Hazel from a grey power perspective as well. And also Mana Whenua, she's looking to link in with Naomi Tupu again. So
yeah. Brad, just a final thing. A couple of locals are saying that the graffiti down at the skate park is exceptionally bad. Someone needs to go down there and scrub out at least some of the words. Is there a plan to actually keep on top of that, please?
Yes, thank you. We are proactively managing that site, and we are getting on to anything that's very offensive straight away, more or less. And sinking a bit of time into it at the moment. So
yeah, thanks. Great. Take that back to the group. Thank you. All right, we have a recommendation there that the report from Brad be received. I'm happy to. Sue, you happy to move, and Bruce second. All those in favour say aye. Against.
Aye.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive report. You're both really good. Okay, so tab 12 is a resolution to exclude the public. Thank you, Claire. Moving.